So after 17 months, I've finally got another one and a ton of hop-ups for it. Hey guys, welcome back to Tamiya Legends, and once again, thank you for stopping by. So we've got a hell of a lot to get through in this video, so let's get cracking. So, as some of you will no doubt know, I had a new inbox one of these many moons ago. Around about 18 months ago. And I'd bought some hop-ups for it, and I was super chuffed to have the kit in the first place, because as we get into this video, I'll explain why this is so special to me. But an opportunity arose with my buddy Michael in the US, who had a brand new inbox TRF 503, and we came to do a deal together. So I got obviously I built it now, but I built the TRF 503 and swapped in the Leonis and all the hop-ups with it. Now, it's a funny one, because I was over the moon to get a brand new 503, because that's the car I really wanted at that time. But I was equally gutted about letting the DB02 go, if that makes sense. But there was no way of doing it. I couldn't have offered him a ton of money for this. He wasn't interested in that, so he really wanted my original kit. So anyway, we did that deal. So as I said, after I got rid of this, I did forget about it for a while, and probably for, I don't know, maybe the last 12 months I've been keeping my eye out for one. These are so rare now, again, which we'll go into as the video progresses. But they just don't come up for sale very often, and I mean, it's probably one of the rarest modern day kits Tamiya do, from what I'm aware of. This, with it being new in box, this is equally as rare as a TRF 511, 501, daft as it sounds. I'm not saying it's as sought after, but it's as rare as those kits, because it got discontinued quite early on. So all the wanted ads I'd been putting out, I didn't get anything back for. So I decided to put another wanted ad on the Tamiya Legends Facebook group, and my friend Sergio, you might know him as Snapshot RC Cars on Instagram. He does great content. I'll put a link to his Instagram channel page, whatever you call it, in the description of this video. If you're on Instagram, go check Snapshot Races out. It's absolutely an awesome page. Anyway, he contacted me. He says, I know someone who's got one. It's in Switzerland, new in box. So the other guy who was selling it wasn't on social media. So Sergio played the middleman for me, which was just so kind of him. And we got the deal across the line, agreed on the price and what have you. And then he got the kit actually in his hands. And then he, as I say, played the middleman and actually sent the kit to me, which was just so generous of him, just to get involved with it, because he knew how badly I wanted one of these kits. So the kit itself, so I've wrote this down. So the part number for this kit is 58507, and it came out in February 2012. The dates are going to be very important as we go through this video, because I find this modern day Tamiya Timeline so interesting, but I'm a nerd, so I would do. So this car was brought out to supersede the Tamiya DB01. Now, DB01 is belt driven, the DB02 is shaft driven, and it has a completely different layout. I'll put a picture up of both chassis, DB01 at the top, DB02 at the bottom. So you can see on the pictures, on the DB01, the battery goes down one side, the motor's mid-mounted but to the back, whereas the DB02, the battery goes across the back end, and the motor again is mid-mounted but to the front, and lots of other differences as well. So as I said, this kit was to supersede the DB01, but it didn't quite go to plan. So why this car is so special to me? Some say that this kit was a complete flop. Some say it was a fail by Tamiya. Now, it had centre gearbox issues out of the kit. Now, I don't think if you just built one of these and you were just sort of running it around on the streets and just, general hobby, I don't think you would have noticed this. I think it was more on sort of tracks where it sort of, the problems occurred. Now, I've got a good friend called Lee who's raced a DB02 for a long time, and he loves it, or loved it. I think he's sold it on now. Now, he said there's not a lot you have to do to this to make it golden, to be honest. The hop-ups that are a must, the first one is a slipper clutch, which Tamiya did an upgrade for anyway, as a hop-up. The second one, and I think one of the most important ones, was the universal dual prop shafts. I think that cured quite a bit of the issues. And then the one he always emphasises is the centre gearbox needs shimming up correctly. Now, the interesting thing for me is when I build this kit, I'll be curious, because I'll build it to kit form, and I'll be curious to see if there is some slop in there. But I'll no doubt contact Lee when I'm building it, and he can tell me how to shim it up correctly. I think front universals were a key upgrade as well from memory, that came from Lee. So with those changes, the car was pretty golden, apparently. But again, I'm not a racer, so some of you guys watching might be able to add a little bit more meat to the bone when it comes to this. So for me, this is within my collection goals. This was a missing piece. I wanted kind of one of each TRF car. I've got the 201, which is a two-wheel drive off-road. I've got the 503, which is a four-wheel drive off-road. What else have I got? I've got the 801 now, which is the 1/8 scale, which has got the electric conversion. And I've also got one touring car, which is a 415 MSXX, and that's to build. Now, the DB01 and DB02 is the next evolution, slightly lower evolution of the TRF cars, but don't get confused with these and sort of compare them to like a DF03 or something like that. These are track cars. These are levels above something like a DF03. So yeah, because I've got those TRF cars, I've got my lovely DB01, so this was the missing piece. I can't tell you, I'm super stoked to have this. Right, so let me add some more meat to the bone to sort of give you more information on why it's so cool within the Tamiya Timeline. So, I've got to get this right, so I've written a lot of this information down. So, from, let's get the years right, 2006, when Tamiya launched the TRF 501X, that was all singing, all dancing, high-end four-wheel drive off-road racing buggy. So from 2006 all the way through to 2014 or 15, but I'll correct that in a minute. Tamiya kept doing these little evolutions, including the DB cars, but unfortunately around about 2015 it just stopped completely. So what I mean by that is they do a full-blown TRF car, and then maybe a year and a half later they do the same, well, it's not the same car, but it's an entry-level version, so a lot more plastic, no alloy, but still the same, like, arms, some suspension setup, turnbuckles, same geometry as a full-blown car. So these were really good cars. Now, let me get these right. So the first time this started, as I say, bear with me. So in December 2006 came the TRF 501X on part number 49401. Magnificent car. Now, interestingly, in November 2007 came the DB01, just a standard car. Again, so it was a direct, cheaper copy of the 501X called the DB01. Then, in September 2009, came the DB10R, which was the upgraded version. What did it have? I think it came with like slipper clutch. It had the small bore aeration shocks on. Had other stuff on as well. So another great car. That takes us through then till November 2010, when Tamiya launched the TRF 502X. So the 501X was belt driven, the 502X was shaft driven. And again, that was 2010. Now, jump 2 years, then the DB02 was launched. So again, on 58507, and that was in February 2012. So they'd done exactly the same, what they'd done from the 501X to the DB01. Now they'd done the 502X to the DB02. So it all made perfect sense. And they were good times. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because, call it what you want, it failed, it flopped on the track or whatever, Tamiya discontinued the DB02. There was only one version of it, the Leonis, and they just discontinued it so short after they launched it. Now, the next car in line. So there's a one thing before I go to the next car in line. I would have thought that Tamiya, because they could have fixed these issues on the DB02, you know, they could have done a DB02R, for example, put slipper clutch in there, universal prop shaft, shimmed the gearboxes up, whatever else it needed. They could have done a DB02R, but they didn't, and that blows me away. They just kind of scrapped it completely. And then they went back to the DB01 platform. So in September 2013 came the DB01 RR. Again, full of upgrades, this time with the TRF big bore aeration dampers. Right piece of kit, super rare now. And then we fast forward to the TRF 503, which it was launched in March 2014. All singing, all dancing, absolutely gorgeous thing. But that's, given the trend we've just seen, what they were doing, they stopped on this. If it had followed the trend, I would have expected after 2014, the 503, back to belt driven, I would have maybe expected to see a DB03 belt driven again, with all this geometry and some parts from it, if that makes sense. I hope it does. But no, they didn't. The 503 turns out it's the last full racing car, that TRF racing car that Tamiya ever did. And then again, they went back and revisited the DB01 again, this time in August 2015, which was the DB01 RR, which again, packed full of hop-ups, slight changes to the colour of shock tops and things like that. Again, super rare kit, a RR version of the DB01. But yeah, I think it's quite unfortunate that that kind of stopped, because what they were doing was just awesome. So I hope that makes sense why I personally think this is such a collectible car. I think Tamiya collectors automatically appreciate this because it's difficult to get, and you know what Tamiya like, or all sort of RC cars, when it becomes kind of obsolete and very collectible, then prices go through the roof. Anyway, I'm chuffed I've got one. So let's talk about hop-ups. Now, I will go into the hop-ups a lot more when we start building this thing, because some of these things, there's a couple of things I've bought that are not needed as such. Now, what I've tried to do is I've tried to separate them into 2 or 3 categories. What's important and what's not. So for me, let's do this in order. So these are the most important hop-ups that are a must. First one is the DB02 slipper clutch. That's obvious, very important one. The next one is the dual universal prop shafts. Again, massively important. I've also bought the UJ front drive shafts for it. I ran out of Tamiya tokens. I would have loved to put a rear set on as well, but the cost of all this was just, as you can imagine. But we have got the front ones. So that's all the musts. The next one, massive shout out to Keith in the US, who sent me these, if you remember, with the with the Tommy Intruder EX car. He sent me a full pack of the big bore aeration shocks and springs. They're just superb. So they're just the best shocks Tamiya make, in my opinion. Next one is the alloy heatsink. I think that's a must upgrade, to be honest, in my opinion. Right, now we get to the things that are kind of needed but not must. So I have for the rear, the back end for the arms, I've got the rear, front and back alloy joints. They're important. Now, just interestingly, they don't do those for the front of the DB02. I searched all over, I had to sort of delve into the research of it, but a massive shout out to Gregory. He sent me this picture. So that is a TRF 502X front lower bulkhead fitted on his DB02 Leonis. Now, unfortunately, I just can't get hold of these parts at all. But if I could get that lower bulkhead and there's a front plate as well, that would follow it all the way through. So the arms were protected in alloy front and back. But as you can imagine, those 502 parts, just non-existent. Next one, which this is not so much a nice to have, it's still important, but we've got the rear carbon strengtheners. So where the battery runs across, there's 2 plastic arms, but you strengthen them in the middle with those carbon ones. And then we have the front and back carbon shock towers. For me, carbon's very blingy, but I guess they're a lot stronger than the plastic ones on the kit. Then we have, and I had to buy 2 sets of these, and I've just dropped something on the floor. These are the aluminium upper arm mounts. So there's 2 pairs. These go on top of the front gearbox and rear gearbox, one on either side. I don't know how important they are, if I'm honest, so that's why I've kind of got them at this stage of the video. I don't know if it's a nice to have bit of bling or if they actually are a must have. Next up, yeah, before we get to what I consider just bling, I bought the DB02 titanium screw set for it. It's the first titanium screw set I've ever had. Now I understand, I believe titanium's strong, but the main benefit, it's really light. For me, that's just a nice to have, nothing more. But anyway, I've gone for it. Then we have what is just complete bling. So this is the full aluminium motor mount, which is just so blingy. It comes with a standard metal motor mount in silver, sort of cast silver anyway. But I've gone the whole hog, and I thought we'll stick that on as well. That's about $90, that piece on its own. And a lot of it's covered once the car's built, which is just ridiculous. But I thought, what the hell? And then I've got 3 sets of, what do they call them? I was going to say like TRF turnbuckles, but basically the Tamiya blue alloy turnbuckles. I'm hoping I've got the right sizes. May have to do a bit of cut and shove to get them to fit. But I think with everything else on it, had to have blue turnbuckles as opposed to the silver ones in the kit. And then just while I was looking, I bought these Jazz Rider front uprights for it. The blue alloy colour is the same anodising colour as the Tamiya, and we'll try them. But once we get to the build, if I find there's a lot of slop in them, then I probably won't fit them. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this on video, should I? And then the last one is the aluminium steering bridge. Again, you can hardly see that when it's in the car, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the plastic one the kit comes with. But anyway, that's my Hopups, which is ridiculous, I know. But again, this is all sort of personal preference for me. I wanted the best DB02 I could have, basically. So I have spent way over what I wanted on it, on the kit and the Hopups, but for me it is going to be worth it. So I think at this stage of the video it'd be quite rude if I didn't show off my DB01 Durga, don't you think? Love this car. Never went all in on it like I'm doing with this one, and I kind of regret that. But I did hop it up. I often try to figure out what spec you would call this, because obviously you've got a standard DB01, then you've got an R, double R and triple R. I think this is now a DB01R plus, if that makes sense. Just whiz that shell off. So first of all, we've got this beautiful TRF shell, and that was painted by Attack RC in Spain. Beautiful shell. What I did to this car from standard, it does come almost fully ball race, but I added the steering bearings to it, which is basically an upgrade. I fitted the slipper clutch to it, which is an absolute must. Front and rear carbon shock towers, small bore aeration dampers. I've also got the full Tamiya aluminium front and back strengtheners, I think you call them. What else we got? I know there's other stuff. And then Lee sent me front universal drive shafts, sweet, and he sent me the brackets for mounting the shocks top and bottom. So you get the plastic ones in the TRF kits. These are alloy top and bottom now, and they completely reduce the slop. Absolutely awesome. So that is quite a high spec Durga. But at this point in the video, I'm going to shout out my buddy Duncan in the UK, and I'll put some pictures up of his DB01 he's just finished. He's gone completely all in on this car, and as you can see from the pictures, it's absolutely gorgeous. Funny thing is, Tamiya never put carbon shock towers on any of the DB cars. You would have thought maybe when it got to the double R or triple R they'd have gone with carbon shock towers, but they remained sort of reinforced graphite plastic, I believe. Duncan's just, every hop up he could get hold of he's put on. And then we get to this amazing paint job. Now, I think this is a bit of an exclusive for Tamiya Legends. I think this is the first time he's shown this shell properly. So thank you for letting me do this, Duncan. So that's been, I forgot the name of the painters. Shark Fat Painters, I believe it is. Hope I've got that right. I don't even know where they're based, but they're on Instagram and they're absolutely superb. And I love what he's done. He's gone with the TRF colours in that little jigsaw sort of thing on the shell. When that's got a couple of decals on it, on the main shell and the wing, that's going to look superb. Love that car. And I just thought it was worth just showing you guys what Duncan's just finished, because I just think that's awesome. So what I'll just do on this last part of the video, I'll put this Tamiya video up. It's an actual promo video they did for the DB02. As you can see, we've got a couple of them racing around, and it showed you a bit of detail on the kind of chassis layout and what have you. Absolutely, I've watched this video over and over. The thing looks to go round the track. Should have mentioned the body shell was designed by Toms, which Toms have done a few of the Tamiya shells. I'm not a massive lover of it, to be honest. It's a bit boxy, but it's got to be box art, hasn't it? When I do it, whatever the box art colours, looking at it, it looks like it's the PS16 Avanti blue, and then just white at the front, and then the wings PS16, and then the rest is done in decals. I'll just 100% follow that through. But I think I've covered everything. Sorry if this has been a long-winded video, but and the silly thing is, I've made this video once 17 months ago with just as much detail, but I thought the channel's now got thousands and thousands more subscribers than it had back then, so a lot of you guys might not have seen the first video on it anyway, so hopefully you've, I was going to say learnt something from this video. How condescending is that for me to say I've taught you something? Idiot. You know what I mean, guys. So yeah, next time you see this, we'll do the full chassis build, and we'll do it in detail because I think we've spent too much money on it just to sort of gloss over it and go, ta-da, it's finished. We'll build it over a full video, which I'm really looking forward to, I've got to be honest. And then we'll get the shell done, and then we'll run it. Definitely going to run it, 100%. Although it is for the collection, it's definitely going to be a shelfer. I have to run it because I have to see for myself what it's like against the DB01 Durga, because that is one of the best cars. Is that possibly the best driving car? People always ask me what's my favourite cars I've driven so far. I always say the other TRF 503 that I had, because it was just like nothing else, and it had a ridiculous high power brushless combo in it. But I think then it's probably the DB01 I did. I've done so many sort of runs with that car, and it's superb. So I'm hoping that, well, I don't know what I'm hoping for, if I'm honest. The comparison, the personal comparison for me is going to be awesome to get this up and running, and it's going to be full spec running it straight away as well, so hopefully we won't have any gearbox issues. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? Imagine spending all this money on this, we get it out, put a battery through it, and gearbox from just like disintegrates. I'm 100% sure that won't happen. Fingers crossed. Anyway, I have really rattled on, but for me, this is what I'm into. I'm really into the timeline stuff and how Tamiya do and don't do stuff. I just find it mega interesting. So I will end this video here, my friends. I bet you're all going cheering because it's ending. Anyway, once again, thanks so much for watching. It's massively appreciated. If you are new to this channel, if you could please consider liking and subscribing to support us. And if you do that, smash that notification bell for our weekly videos. And as always, my friends, happy RCing.